budget is through the roof.
Help me. Get more information at sports790.com.
You're live.
What up, y'all? It's your boy Terminology. Right now, you tune into Sports Rap Live, Sports Talk, 790 AM, iHeartRadio. You know what it is. Shout out to my big brother, Bun B. Let's go.
That's right. Shout out to Terminology. Bun B is in the building. And we've got a lot.
His big brother, Bun B.
A lot to talk about. Of course, we had Terminology on, and if you want to check that out on the podcast, you go to sportsraplive.com. That's rap with 2 P's. Check it out, man. It's on the homepage. All of our podcasts go up. If you don't catch a video podcast, you can always catch the audio podcast on sports790.com. So we want to make sure you guys are caught up to date with what's going on here on the Trilla Sports Talk Show in the city. But right now, we got to open up a bag of those danky NFL nuggets brought to you by BC Smokeshop, where you guys know you can get $20 off a purchase of $100 if you have the coupon or you mention the Rapp Pack Special at their 2 Houston area locations, 7909 Westheimer and FM 1960 at Jones Road, where they have vintage ashtrays, rare glass pieces, some of the most exclusive glass artists in the industry, and of course all the detox you need to have a good clean system as you get out into this beautiful Texas weather and get your workout on. Speaking of getting their workouts on, you know, we've seen it through the combine, through the pre-draft workouts, to the pro days, until last weekend when we finally had the NFL draft. And Andrew, your thoughts overall on the 3-day event?
So many trades. So many trades. It seemed like that was the beginning of the draft, is where we talked about RG3, you know, him getting taken by the Redskins. I know the Texans made some trades. I mean, it just seemed like every team that could make a move did. It wasn't only like a year where Bill Belichick, you know, it seems like the Patriots are the one team that moves down. It seemed like teams were just wheeling and dealing left and right.
Well, look, the Texans bolstered their D-line, which has paid off since 06, really, with the #1 overall pick in Mario Williams, to last year's additions of J.J. Watt, Brooks Reed, and some other pieces mixed in there. But this year, first-round pick Whitney Merciless, I keep wanting to say Marcellus, like if we're watching Pulp Fiction. Whitney Merciless, he's coming into play for Wade Phillips, as well as Nebraska's Crick, who is just gravy on the potatoes.
I don't know how good Crick is, though. Like, he fell obviously for a reason. He had a first grade grade, I think, a year ago, but he just did not look the same this year for Nebraska. I don't know what it was, but I think it was a good value pick, because there might actually be some talent that he, you know, maybe just had a bad year. I don't know what it is, but you know, I'm not so high on him as I am of some of the other picks.
Okay, well, let's talk about what else the Texans did first and foremost after that #1 pick. And I think Crick went in the 3rd round because they traded down. They traded out of the 2nd round to move into the 3rd round to pick up a couple extra picks.
I have it right here.
Right.
4th round. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So they actually went receiver. I saw that they picked up a couple different receivers.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about these guys?
I don't really understand the DeVere Posey pick at all. Like, it just doesn't make sense from a sense of he missed almost the first half of his senior year because of all the suspensions that had happened. He was part of one of the guys that got caught up in the tattoo gate, or of all the stuff that happened at Ohio State. They got Jim Tressel fired.
So when he gets to H-Town, we need to send him over to Tattoo Drew.
Yes.
He can get all the tats he wants.
And I'm not really sure how much, you know, how guilty those guys were. We know that it was pretty much, you know, Terrell Pryor that was the one that was a fault. But DeVere Posey, it's tough to say how good he is because there's really not much tape that we could have on him for his senior year. I think he has deceptive speed, but I don't know. It's really tough to judge that pick. I think the Texans obviously saw something to draft him this high, because I don't think anyone had him this high as far as wide receivers go.
Bun, your thoughts on taking a receiver? Obviously, that was a need that they needed to address. What do you think about them trading out of the 2nd round when Ruben Randall was still on the board from LSU?
Well, I think a lot of people were thinking that Randall was someone that would have gone a little bit higher, you know. But I'm happy with that pick. I mean, it was obvious we were going to have to get either a tight end or a wide receiver at some point, having already used the first pick to strengthen up the defense. I think we're putting ourselves in a position where Andre doesn't have to feel obligated to really go out there and overwork himself. You know, I think he plays better when he's a little bit more relaxed and the game necessarily isn't just on his back. I think the Texans are gearing themselves up to really be the force that we want them to be. And as long as our quarterback stays healthy, you know, we're strengthening all the positions that were weak, you know, last year. If there was any real weakness to put a finger on, you know, it was just really about over-strengthening some of these positions.
My tweet after the draft completed, after the Texans made their last pick, was it's interesting to see them actually making championship type of piece draft, you know, puzzle piece draft.
Well, we think they are. We don't know if they did.
They are,
but we think they addressed some needs. I still don't think they addressed wide receiver, though. Like, I still don't think either of these wide receivers is someone that's really going to help Andre.
Well, let's talk about the other kid from Michigan State.
I mean, we need somebody to help take up the double coverage.
Well, no, I agree. These guys are going to help. I just don't think any of these people is the answer, is the solution. I think they're just, guys that are going to help chip in, but I don't think that we're going to look at either of these guys. And the other guy being Keyshawn Martin from Michigan State,
right,
who is very productive wide receiver. He's really fast. I just don't know that either of these guys are really going to be a guy that we're going to say, you know what, yeah, we got this other guy that if Dre's gone, these guys are going to step up. And the other thing is that wide receiver takes usually 2 to 3 seasons for a guy to really get up to speed with the playbook, his blocking ability, and his route running.
Well, most positions take 2 to 3 years.
No, well, not all. I would say, like, as far as like wide receiver, that's one that takes a long time. But running back doesn't take any time at all. Defensive back really doesn't take any time at all. Secondary, really not so much time at all. Defensive end, not so much at all. The ones that are really you have to learn are the offensive line takes a lot of learning. Quarterback, obviously, the longest time, and maybe linebacker if you're going to read call out the defenses. But the farther you get away from the ball, the quicker you can play.
Well, I think that all depends on the schemes that the teams you're going into, and how settled in everybody is. Who's coaching what. Depends if you're coming from a 3-4 trying to transfer into a 4-3. Sometimes those things take a little time to get used to.
But in general, wide receivers, there's only usually 1 to maybe 2 to 3 each season from each draft class period that makes an impact.
I don't think any of these guys are here to replace Andre. I think they're here to take the load off of him more than anything.
Let me ask you this. Who was still on the board as you saw this pick come through and you saw this pick come through in the 3rd and the 4th rounds? Who was still on the board at that point that you kind of scratched your head and said, why wouldn't they take him instead of taking a guy that really didn't have any tape?
Well, I'll tell you this much. To be honest, all they have to be is better than Jacoby. That's all they have to be is better than Jacoby. As long as they're better than Jacoby, they're going to give good value to the team.
But define better. Hold the ball?
Yes. If you guys, and I think Keyshawn Martin's a guy that's going to give us some of that in the punt return game. So I think he's going to help out there.
Without the swag. I mean, because
he'll probably bring some swag with him. But after the
swag after the play.
Thank you. That's what I mean.
All the Arkansas kids. I liked all the Arkansas kids that came out there were wide receiver. Joe Adams. Who else is there?
Was Joe Adams was still on the board?
Yeah, Joe Adams. I liked him. And there was another kid, Jarius Wright, and there was one more came out of Arkansas. There was 3 of them. Oh, and Greg Childs. And Greg Childs, please, is what I call him. Yeah. But actually, 2 of those guys played together in high school and in college, and they got drafted by Minnesota. That's pretty crazy.
That's
playing
cool.
3 different levels together. I like that.
Okay, all right. Well, obviously they took a couple of other linemen. They took a center. The Texans took an offensive guard. You can never have too many offensive linemen, especially with the exit of your Eric Winstons and some of the other guys. And
what I've read is that Ben Jones, the offensive lineman they got from Georgia, he's pretty versatile. He can play center and some guards. So that's going to fill a definite need. So I'm excited about that.
Well, you talked about look. Let's move on, and we'll keep it in the division, okay? Because this is a team that could very possibly turn their sorrows around pretty quick after the exit of Peyton Manning, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I thought the Colts had a good draft for the future, but on paper, it still looked like a good draft even for this year.
Oh God, they got so many good guys I like.
They really did. They really did.
Well,
they got.
Let's start off at the bat.
Yeah.
They match up. What does every good young quarterback need?
Tight end.
A tight end, safety valve.
Who they played with in college, who's their best friend.
Exactly. They're going to be best buddies. They're going to travel together. They're going to learn the playbook together. It's going to be another Peyton Manning and Dallas Clark situation with Andrew Luck and Kobe Fleener.
It's a great combination, I think, seeing these guys both go to the same team. It's incredible to see that these guys are going to be able to carry this relationship from college into the pros. There's one less thing that these guys have to learn with each other. And then also, he's going to have his back up there. He's going to be able to look over and see his guy. And whenever he's feeling funny, his guys are going to look, we got this. Remember when we did this? Whoop, whoop, whoop. We're going to do this, man. You're good.
Adam,
mentally it's a great thing.
They took a guy in the 3rd round, T.Y. Hilton. I'm not even sure if you've seen this guy.
Oh, we've talked about him.
Freakish speed. This guy is the only reason I would even watch FIU games during college football and like the random days they have it on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and whatnot. T.Y. Hilton doing T.Y. Hilton things. This guy's going to be so much fun to watch. He's a little gadget player. He's going to be running all the little reverses. He's going to be a punt returner, a kick returner, electric speed.
Look at their first 4 picks.
Oh, and Dwayne Allen as a tight end. I loved him at Clemson.
Look at their first 4 picks.
Yeah.
If that's not future value.
Offensive weapons.
Answer this question, Andrew. T.Y. Hilton is the new blank.
He's got.
This kid's multi-purpose.
He's got speed that's kind of like. He's kind of like Darren Sproles with his speed. Like he's just shifty. He's super shifty. He's explosive in the open field. I don't know if he's as
Wallace almost.
No, Wallace is much bigger. T.Y. Hilton is just the guy that you put him out there. And who's the guy? Randall Cobb. He reminds me of a Randall Cobb for the Packers, who was just out there just slicing people up. You know, get him in the open field, get him in a screen, get him in a punt return, a kick return, a little bubble screen. Very fast. Put on the highlight reel on him on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, they were deep.
Impressive.
That draft right there is deep.
I'm not that high on Vic Ballard from Mississippi State. He's a physical running back. But Chandler Harnish, Mr. Irrelevant, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they went quarterback at the top and quarterback at the bottom.
T.Y. Hilton, though, I would be happy. Whatever team he went to, I would give them rave reviews. I love that kid.
All right, well, let's look at some of the other teams. Now, some people were really surprised that Jacksonville ended up getting Justin Blackmon, but they did move up. They got Justin Blackmon. Let's talk a little bit about who else they got.
I don't know how good Justin Blackmon's going to be, and I think the kind of jury's out, because while he dominated the college game, if you still put him back with Des Bryant, I think Des Bryant is way better than him. You know, way better. I think that he is explosive above. He can jump up and catch a ball. Like he can go up and grab the ball. You know, as far as his vertical ability, but his speed down the field, I think, is really to be questioned. He runs good routes, though. Some of the other guys they got, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's finish out the Texans division with the Tennessee Titans. Now, Tennessee, you know, hey, they're what some people would consider a dark horse, I guess, in this division because they still have.
Hey, they took a Rice player. Automatically, I got to give them some props.
Okay, well, let's talk about a couple of their other picks. Kendall Wright, you know, a lot of people thought that the Texans might jump on.
Yeah, he's a good wide receiver for them. He's going to be a nice complement to go with who they already had last year. I'm still questioning whether Jake Locker is going to be a good quarterback for them. Yeah. But I think that's going to be a good addition.
They were real close to getting Peyton Manning. Real close.
Yeah, they were. I think some of the other guys they added, it looks like they added some secondary help with Cody Sensabaugh from Clemson, and they added a safety from Oklahoma State. But, you know, that team really needs a lot of help in a lot of areas, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with the new coaching staff.
All right, well, hey, one guy that we always draft in the first round, and since it's Shout-Out Sunday, I'm going to shout him out right now, and it officially begins with a special shout-out to Houston's top DWI lawyer.
Gary Trickler.
Who was that?
Gary Trickler.
That's right. Gary Trickler gets shouted out no matter where we are, whether we're at the Act Bad release party Friday night, letting everybody know that they can stay safe out there. Because if you're going to drink, you got to make sure you have a non-drinking designated driver or take a cab or a limo, because both cost a lot less than having to call Gary Trickler. If you do decide to drink and you think that cars are going backwards on 288 on your way home, you might want to have Gary Trickler's number in your phone. I'm just saying, not anybody in particular, but, you know, if you're seeing flashing lights and think that the popo are in your rearview mirror, have his number in your phone. Or do not have any open containers of alcohol in your car, follow the traffic laws religiously, and do not give an officer a reason to stop you. Because if you do get stopped, you're going to have to answer questions. Oh, you want to answer questions? Hell no. So keep your mouth shut, continue to ask for your lawyer, tell him you want Gary Trickler on the phone immediately. Be polite. And continue to ask for your lawyers, because he's going to ask you to do roadside gymnastics. He's going to ask you, Ralph G might just walk in the building and you know what, the cop might say, "You've been drinking?" And you say, "Hey."
He looks like he's been drinking with that shirt.
Call my lawyer, 713-524-1010, because it's going to cost you a lot more if you do not put that number in your phone. I'm talking over $12,000. You might be a knucklehead. You might bump a referee. They think you're drunk. You get thrown out of the game. Call Gary Trickler. All right, 713-524-1010. Call him in Houston and visit TexasDWILaw.com for more information. All right, well, let's get back to the draft.
Adam, I want to update some of these Texans undrafted rookies they signed today.
Speaking of,
I think you called this one.
I really did. Now, this was interesting, okay, because Case Keenum, who I really didn't think was going to get drafted. I mean, Kellen Moore didn't get drafted as well, from the all-time winningest college football player as far as games won.
He actually latched on with the Lions.
Nice, backup Stafford, okay. But, yeah, Case Keenum, I said, hey, I think Case Keenum knows where Kirby Drive is. He's from Houston. He's a Houston kid. He's been around the city. I said, why don't you show up over there and, hey, maybe you can back up starting quarterback TJ Yates. Just kidding, Schaub. Just kidding. But really, I was happy to see Case Keenum stay in Houston.
I think it's cool that he gets to stay with the local team. His local fans that he's already built up can follow him, but I don't really know that he's going to get that much playing time. I hope that he does develop and make something of his career, because I think that he realizes that his career's not over just because he didn't get drafted. What do you think about that, Bun, about U of H quarterback staying here at home?
I think it's a good thing for him. I think mentally it's going to help him, you know, because I think a lot of him growing as a quarterback is going to be mental. And I think being able to stay here and actually maybe going back to campus every now and then, talking to coach, well, not his coach, but talking to different people close to him, and I think staying rooted in this community is going to help him a lot.
Easy transition as far as moving
absolutely.
cities.
Moving to different cities, having to get used to a lot of different people. He knows Houston, he knows the city, he knows his way around. All he has to do is get up like he's always been getting up. He's just going to a different stadium now.
He certainly has a support group set up for him.
Absolutely. That U of H alumni are going to be at those games supporting just the fact that he's sitting there on the sidelines. And they're going to be pushing for him to get pushed up the ladder. And, hey, look what happened to a third-string quarterback last year.
Yeah.
You never know.
You absolutely never know.
I don't want that to happen.
Nope.
Let that be said.
Nope.
I don't want a staff to go through that kind of a situation.
Some of the names of these undrafted rookies that the Texans signed are just weird to me. Eddie Pleasant. There's a kid named Philip Supernaw. That just sounds like a cool name to me. Philip Supernaw.
Tell us a little bit about these guys.
I have no idea. He went to Ochawacha Baptist.
I was just going to say,
I can't pronounce that.
I'm pretty good at sounding it. Wachita Baptist.
Philip Supernaw, though, if you're ever in town, holler at us, dude. We'll have you on the show.
We would love to have you.
Yeah.
Supernaw.
He's a Supernaw. Dwight Jones, that's actually a good wide receiver from North Carolina. I'm surprised he didn't get drafted.
Cool.
He latched on with the team. That's about it as far as guys that I recognize.
Well, let's get back to the actual draft itself.
Okay.
Let's look at some of the NFC teams. We talked a little bit about AFC, especially in the Texans division, because I think that's really where we need to look and see what these teams are doing as the Texans continue to grow as the dominant team in the division. But it looks like Indianapolis could be back in it pretty quick. All right, so NFC teams. Let's start with the champion Giants. Some of the picks that they took, I know that they went a lot of offense. They had a lot of offensive pieces early in the draft, including David Wilson, which you really liked.
I liked him. I really liked him a lot. That guy is a very, very physical running back. He's going to be an interesting presence because they really need someone to fill the gap that was left behind from Brandon Jacobs. Brandon Jacobs, who was kind of malcontent and played whenever he wanted to. I mean, he got the job done. They won 2 Super Bowls with him. I think he's going to be a very interesting runner to combine with Ahmad Bradshaw, who both fight for like that extra yard. Ruben Randall, I think that's the guy that everyone here in town kind of had their eye on as far as a wide receiver they could get. It's going to be interesting to see how he works in there because that team's like a team that seems that they don't even need a wide receiver, considering how many guys they've had step up in the last couple of years. Hakeem Nicks. Yeah. Last year they had, who were we talking about? Victor Cruz. Yeah. So they've had some guys step up. I'm surprised they took a guy that high, but,
Well, I know Pete, Premium Pete, our buddy out there in New York, big-time New York Giants fan, was very happy with the draft. I saw some of his comments on Twitter.
Yeah, he's really happy with the guys that they picked, and I was talking to Pete as well. He's very happy about the draft picks, and he thinks it's just kind of like what I was saying earlier about the Texans is that they're really just trying to pick guys that can kind of take the load off of the guys that they really need to perform this year. They're drafting a wide receiver. Do they really need a wide receiver? No. Are they going to need a wide receiver every now or a tight end every now and then to fall back and relax? Or are they going to lose a guy this year? Most teams have to, be ahead of the game at this kind of thing because you lose a guy, you don't want to be trying to look for one.
Interesting stat about these Giants. They had 8 guys from the last 2 drafts contribute to their Super Bowl run this year.
they've done very, very well. I think it's Floyd Reese.
That's
Is Floyd
huge.
Reese still the GM there? I think he might be.
Okay, all right. I'll have to check on that.
But they've always had a good ability to scout out talent for the NFL.
All right, speaking of talent, there's lots of talent, and I'm not talking football in Dallas, but let's talk about the talent that they drafted. And it all started with a big move. They moved up to get Morris Claiborne, who said he basically blew off the Wonderlic test. Do not judge him on his Wonderlic score. He didn't really care about it anyway.
I mean, to get a 4 it's just so damn impossible. It's like you have $1, you buy something that costs 25 cents. What's the fewest amount of coins you can get change with? It's like 3/4. He couldn't even answer that. I mean, it's literally that easy. It gets progressively harder. It's not by any means an very easy test.
Have you taken the Wonderlic?
Yeah, it's like an IQ test. It's not. It gets progressively harder.
What's your score on it?
Like a 51. I don't know. I mean,
off the charts.
No, I mean I'm not getting like a 51 on there, but it's easy enough to where you should be able to score at least a 15. I mean it's not that hard, but I mean his talent though is still very, very high. I'm not say that I'm surprised that the Cowboys address their defensive back needs because they have been burnt so many times over the last couple seasons in their secondary. It just seems they had to do something at them.
Now they had to give up a 2nd-round pick to move up and get Morris Claiborne. You know, the Cowboys, they don't care.
I think they could have
don't care.
waited and gotten Stephon Gilmore from South Carolina, but this is their man. This is who they wanted. He's from the tri-state area, you know, keeping in that LSU, Arkansas, Texas area. So
The new tri-state, of course.
yes.
All right, so a couple other picks that the Cowboys, you know, we have a local Cowboys contingent that not only comes out here to Sports Rap Live, including Soccer Talker, but some of the other people out there that...
To be honest, I haven't heard of some of these kids. Safety from Eastern Washington. I'm sorry, dude. I don't watch Eastern Washington. You guys have a red field.
That's true.
I'm not watching that.
That's pretty obnoxious.
That's why it's so hard to track some of these teams. It's
I
really,
mean, the receiver out of Virginia Tech, you know, he's all ACC player. They've got some value. All right, let's look at some of the. Let's look at the Packers. Now, the Packers' disappointing playoff exit this past year after going 15-1 in the regular season. Talk about
I like Drill Worthy, the defensive tackle from Michigan State. He was pretty good. Some of these other kids, I mean, they drafted a kid out of Maine. Sorry, I'm not going to know that kid. It looks like they drafted a lot of defense, very, very defensive heavy, which is interesting because their offense has been so good these last couple of seasons. But Nick Perry, a defensive end at USC, then they drafted a defensive tackle, then a cornerback, then a defensive tackle, then a safety, then an outside linebacker. Adam, that's like, what, 6 picks? Their first 6 picks were all used on defensive players.
Guess what? Their defense was
Yeah, it was bad. It was the last rated in the NFL against
one
the
of
Packers.
the worst ever rated.
Second to last. Maybe it was the worst after the Patriots. I don't know. They were really, really bad. So we'll see.
They were. All right, well, let's continue to move on.
I want to touch on your
yes,
Superchargers.
Thank you very much. That was exactly what I wanted to get to.
Who have a great shoe, by the way.
They really do, which we will get into later when Kadoma brings us the sneak of the week. And Nike just dropped their NFL draft packs.
They also, one of their PR guys opened his mouth and he shouldn't have. We'll talk about that later too.
Oh, we'll get into that for sure. For sure. I think that was.
But your Chargers took Melvin Ingram from South Carolina. I love Melvin Ingram.
Say it again.
I love Melvin Ingram.
Thank you.
This guy is a beast. If you watched him at South Carolina this past year, his first couple, 3 or 4 games, he was doing like fake punts and stuff. He was doing like fake kickoffs and stuff. I mean, he is just a man-child. A man-child. So I can't wait to see him in that
Good
defensive
thing he got
end.
out of South Carolina because they're about to go on probation.
Yeah, you know, OBC does what OBC does.
That's right. SEC, baby. You got to love it.
I also like their last pick, Edwin Baker. I think he was a decent running back at Michigan State.
He was. And Brandon Taylor. Brandon Taylor's a hard-hitting safety
Yes,
out of
Brandon
LSU.
Taylor is going to be a great addition to this team. That boy does not play, you know, as most LSU players kind of go on the defensive side, but I think he's going to be a great addition to these teams.
Very true. Very
I know
true.
you're happy.
I think they had a great draft, and it's, you know, hey, Ladarius Green as well. Antonio Gates, he ain't walking through that door as Antonio Gates, number 85, that we know anymore. He's been banged up for 3 or 4 years now. So I was really happy. Ladarius Green was basically a second-team All-American coming from Louisiana Lafayette, who made their first bowl game in school history. Shout out to the Raging Cajuns, who, you know, I actually spent some time there at Louisiana Lafayette. So very happy to see that. Chargers did really well. Andrew, now let's talk about overall. Some of the better drafts that you thought. You know, we've touched on a few of them here, but some of the disappointing drafts that we haven't hit on yet.
I don't understand why the Redskins drafted. Was it the Redskins?
I'm glad you brought up the Redskins, who took RG3, and then they took Kirk Cousins.
I just don't understand that. Like, why would you spend a 4th-round pick on 2 quarterbacks in the first 4 rounds? Surely, if you're going to get a backup quarterback, he's not going to play even immediately. You must think that Kirk Cousins better be the best backup quarterback and be starting, you know, in a couple years from now, or be pushing to be started, like some of these guys that we've seen from Green Bay and New England Patriots, how they've kind of cultivated guys and got them traded. Because I do not understand that pick at all.
What was the motivation, Andrew? I mean, I was pretty shocked.
I don't know.
I was shocked.
I don't think they're a great evaluator of talent, period. Like, I think they're smart enough to realize that they had to go out and get RG3 to do something, but I don't think this team has done very well in drafting players in the last couple of seasons. Defensively, yeah, maybe. But offensively, it seems like they whip every year on wide receivers and whatnot. I don't know.
Do you think there's a possibility that they may be drafting this guy for something other than the quarterback position?
No. Kirk Cousins, I will say this, Kirk Cousins is probably one of the greatest human beings that you'll ever hear talked about as far as in this last quarterback
People
class.
don't get signed for being nice, though.
It's true. I mean, no, they don't, but he's going to be great in the community. I think he's going to be a good guy to keep. RG3, though, he doesn't need someone to keep him in line, though. He's already a great human being from a great background himself.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think they need another good Samaritan.
I don't know.
A motivator, yeah.
Exactly.
Even if they draft Kirk Cousins and are able to flip him, Adam, to another team later on that's
That's
ready.
what I kept waiting for. The
Okay,
trade to come down.
but if they do that, whenever he's ready in 2 or 3 years, they're going to get a 2nd or 3rd rounder. You moved up 1 round. in 4
After
years.
giving up multiple picks for RG3. That's the crazy
I don't
part
understand
about
that pick at all. So
Yeah,
it's confusing to me as well.
All right, now, hey, let's talk a little bit about New England, because New England, they are notorious for their draft day chicanery as far as Belichick goes. Let's talk a little bit about what they did.
They drafted my boy Dante Hightower, Alabama guy.
They did. 2 first-round picks.
It's surprising you
Two
see.
great first round.
It's surprising when you see New England move up, because they're always moving down. But when they move up to get their guys, I think they're realizing they have to address their needs on the defensive end of the ball, because that offense was just outstanding, but that defense, like we said earlier, was one of, if not the worst pass secondary in the NFL last year. So they get a defensive end, an inside linebacker, a safety, another defensive end, another safety, another cornerback. I mean, right there, they're using 6 of their first 7 picks at them on defense.
Similar to Green Bay, who realized that their weakness was their defense.
Right.
So I think they addressed their needs.
And Tom Brady's going to cure all their ailments that they have on the offensive side of the ball. So it's defense they really need to up their game.
Let's talk a little bit about Cleveland, Andrew. Now that we know they took Brandon Whedon. Over the weekend, it was, were they going to trade Colt McCoy? Were they not going to trade Colt McCoy? Apparently, they came out and said they love Brandon Whedon, but they're not going to trade McCoy.
I think both those quarterbacks are going to be bad. I mean, I do.
Give the ball to Trent, call it a day.
Well, I mean,
So you're not sold on the Whedon.
No, I think Whedon is a decent quarterback, but I don't think he shows any of the traits of being elite, Adam. I mean, did you ever see him and think, wow, there's a guy that just has the physical arm to get the ball down the field, or to gun it in there, or show those elite instincts? I didn't see it from him, and I think Colt McCoy is clearly not even, he doesn't even pass the smell test.
But
the
smelling salt test.
The only smelling salt test he had was against Pittsburgh when he got his bell rung the first time he got some NFL action.
Sheesh.
I will say that
bad.
they drafted a couple guys there that are interesting to me, and Travis Benjamin, that guy's a burner from Miami. You know all those Miami guys are burners.
Wait, yeah, they all burn in Miami, right? You're talking about speed. You're talking about speed. I'm sorry.
Emmanuel Acho, he was a very good linebacker
It
at
is
Texas.
NFL Nuggets. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Sponsored by BC Smokeshop. Just saying.
Yeah, but I think overall Trent Richardson, I mean, he's probably my favorite player in this draft outside of RG3. He's going to be a beast. I can't wait to watch him. I hope that the city of Cleveland doesn't ruin him like they've ruined every other big athlete that's come through
Did you
there.
hear Jim Brown say he was ordinary?
Yes, that's so dumb too.
Okay. I just thought.
I mean, compare him to whenever Mark Ingram came out. He's worlds better than him. Worlds better.
Agreed. And Mark Ingram got plenty of playing time this year.
Yeah, Mark Ingram's a good to decent, an average NFL running back. He gives you pretty good production, but Trent Richardson's awesome.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, there it is. I don't know if we're going to be talking a lot of football with the NBA playoffs coming up and Major League Baseball getting heated up as we head towards the All-Star game. But we'll keep you up to date with all the undrafted free agent signings, some of the moves that teams make.
Hard Knocks will be here before you know it.
Hard Knocks will be here, OTAs, and then we'll actually, in the fall, we'll really dig into football as we always do here on Sports Rap Live. So
Yeah.
when we get back, we're going to take it from football to football as soccer talker Luis joins the show to talk everything from around the world of soccer, including your Dynamo, who had an interesting end to their match last night and are looking forward to opening their brand new stadium. So you guys stick around right here on Sports Rap Live on Sports Talk 790. We'll be right back. We'll take you to the pitch.
With some feet ball.